Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Open Coin Door podcast. I'm Tim Owens, the owner of Reclaim Arcade, and this is kind of our chance to do a deep dive into what it means to own an arcade. We cover everything from, the stuff that happened last week to the stuff that I'm thinking about for the future and just kind of the things that we've dealt with. I am joined today not by my typical what would you call it? Commandant Collins.
Silent partner.
Silent partner. That's right. Collins is on vacation, as I mentioned in the last episode. So I've got a special guest today. Mark Gray has joined me.
Welcome, Collins. I'm keeping your seat warm. You got to come back.
There you go. Yeah. Collins will be back. But I'm excited to have you on here. We only recently started interacting together. I feel like it's only been a couple months. When did you start coming to the arcade in general? And this isn't going to be an interview of you, to be clear. We'll talk arcade stuff, but I'm just curious, like when you started coming here, and obviously you're pretty engaged at this point, particularly on the pinball, I would say.
Sure. I'm going to have to go change my shirt now because I'm sweating already. This does feel like an interview.
Right.
No.
Yeah, there will be a quiz. Yeah.
So I do, to be honest, I do have a membership here, a yearly membership, and that date shows October.
Okay.
So I assume maybe a month or two before last October, I started coming here.
And then you reached out to me because you wanted to buy a pinball machine, and you were interested in feedback. You were thinking about Jaws, which I believe is what you ended up buying at the time.
Correct.
Oh, Lord. Our lights just flickered for a second. We've had so many power issues here.
It's been pretty stormy in the area.
Speaking of issues at the arcade, well, today I think there were like power lines across 95. I don't know if you caught all of that.
I did, yep.
But even in this area, we've got a new school being built down the road, so we've had lots of power issues. So hopefully this will all pan out and be good, and the recording will keep going, but we'll see. But yeah, you were buying a pinball machine and had questions about what to look for, what's a good deal, all the kind of typical stuff that I think somebody just getting into that world has, right?
Yeah, so I had seen you guys online, and I had this itch, right? I played pinball and arcade when I was younger. It may not look like it, but I am an 80s baby. And so I was looking for an outlet, something outside of video games, but also something that my wife and I could come and play a game or two. And so I found you guys, and when I came in, started playing pinball, I was immediately hooked.
Had you played pinball as a kid at all?
I did, yeah.
Did?
So there was an arcade locally.
See, that's different for me because me growing up, I was big on I was born in 82, mostly early 90s games, Smash TV, the Konami 4-player games like Turtles and Simpsons and that
X-Men,
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The games that would be at like a Fuddruckers or in a restaurant or something. That was what I was playing, but I didn't play a lick of pinball when I was a kid.
Yeah, so I can't remember the place's name, but I had something very similar, and they also had pinball and laser tag. I mean, it was a pretty big facility.
Sure.
And there was also a local pizza place that had usually an arcade machine and also a pinball machine. Mm-hmm. It had just been decades since I really played.
Yeah.
So came in, scratched the itch here. However, that just grew.
Right, as it does, typically.
So started looking into it a little bit more, and I think that we really started engaging, though, because I was checking out the party room as well.
Right. Yeah.
So
I think you wanted to do an office party, potentially, or something like that. Yeah.
So once I had the in. I think whoever normally handles all that for you,
I called you. Yeah, they were out. I called you. You saved my number and started stalking me, as one does. It's
exactly.
Fair. Yeah, right.
And I'm here now, against your will.
What a world. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so
I'm being held hostage. Please send help.
Blink. Yep, he did. He blinked twice.
That's right.
Whatever that hand thing is, I don't even know what it is, right? When you get kidnapped, you're supposed to do like a hand signal.
I feel like that's something I should know, and I have no idea what you're even talking about.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
It's okay. Good. Yeah, right. I won't need that.
But yeah, so that's when we really started talking to each other.
Sure.
I really appreciated that connection there.
Yeah.
But then you had also just recommended coming to one of the tournaments and talking to some people there. And
yeah, you
I
still
did,
aren't.
right?
You did, but you still aren't a big tournament player, right? Like I've noticed more
Mm,
often than not, it's like you'd rather come and just play games while we're open or something, but not. You're not a competitive player, I don't think, in that sense yet. Anyway, I would
Yet.
say
Yeah, I would say yet.
Yeah.
I think that's another itch that I kind of scratched a couple tournaments ago.
Sure.
I surprised even myself
Yeah.
in how well I did. I don't know if that's repeatable.
Right.
Time will tell.
Well, Lord knows, when I play the tournaments, it's not to play well. For me, it's more just hanging out with people playing pinball and just having fun. And so, and I think that's a good mindset going into it. There are certainly the competitive pinball space can be very, competitive, very like adversarial for some people where they just take it way too seriously, I think. And I just try to approach it as like, oh man, like what better than a group of people, 45 some people coming together, drinking beer, playing pinball, and talking crap with each other and just having fun. And so for me, that's how I approach every tournament. I'm not in it to try and make states and all the pressures involved with that kind of thing. Yes, there are state finals and even nationals and worlds for pinball, but I don't get into all that stuff. An IFPA number, it's just a number to me. It's nothing I really care about.
I was super intimidated at first.
Yeah.
But then as I started talking to people, a lot of the regulars and people that have traveled quite a ways to get here.
Absolutely.
All very approachable, super friendly, would even try to recommend some things.
Isn't that the
for
best?
Next game? So
yeah, like it's that people will tell you like, oh yeah, so have you ever played this game? Well, this is kind of this and this is that. I mean, some people aren't going to give you any information until the game's
secrets, right?
Until the game's over, right? And then they'll be like, oh, you should have gone for that. You'd be like, why didn't you say anything? It's like, oh, because I'm playing you. Right?
Yeah.
But I thought that's so cool that people are willing to share and help each other out. If you haven't played this game, if you haven't played that game, oh, you should check this one out. Next time, maybe think about doing a softer plunge to try and get the skill shot. And you're like, oh, I had no idea that was even a thing, right?
There are some people that I will ask how to do certain skill shots. They will tell me, it goes over my head, and somehow I will miraculously do it.
Right.
But I will not be able to repeat it.
You look like a star student, and you're just like, oh, yeah,
that's
look at
what
me.
happened the last tournament.
Look at me go. Yeah, look at me go.
But I made contacts there as well.
Sure.
And so not that I was trying to fact check you.
Right.
But it just kind of naturally happened.
Right.
So the things that you were telling me and what to look for in pinball, or if I were buying a pinball, or who should I contact if I were to buy a pinball machine.
Right.
There were other people within the community, Reclaim community,
sure,
that have backed that up. So I went down that route.
Right. Very cool. And speaking of tournaments, we just had our Women Flipping Out tournament last Thursday. It was very well attended. I think they had 22 players that night. Now, your wife played in a women's tournament, is that right?
Not yet, but
she didn't. I thought she did.
No, every time that we come,
we got to get her into that.
All the women are like, "Hey, you need to come."
Totally.
And I'm trying to get her here.
Yeah, that would be cool. I've been really impressed by the women's group. Jenna Headings runs the group, and she approached me. She wanted to build a pinball community for women in the area, and she was like, I want to start running tournaments and stuff. We were doing our monthly tournament already. It's just open to everybody, but she was like, no, I really want to do like a women's thing. And this is very popular in a lot of places. Typically they fall under the chapters of a thing called Bells and Chimes, which are women's organizations throughout the U.S. and maybe even the world. I'm not sure, but definitely in the U.S. there are chapters for Bells and Chimes all throughout that do, women-only events. She wanted to do something completely different. She was like, I don't care about Bells and Chimes. I just want to call it Women Flipping Out, and we'll do all kinds of things. We'll have social hangouts and all that. They have a Discord that they're running now, and so
cool.
In addition, they do league nights at Maltese Brewing, and they do the monthly tournaments here, and then they have like a Stitch and Bitch session where they get together and they do like knitting and stuff and just kind of hang out. Who comes up with
these names? Because they're perfect.
They're great, right? So, they've got lots of social activities as well and a very active Discord, which I'm almost jealous that the larger pinball community didn't really dive into Discord. I like it a lot, and I'm not a huge Discord user, but the way that they're able to just say like, oh, these are books that I'm reading, these are movies that I'm watching, it's almost like Slack and all those kind of things. Like they have this back channel where they're always talking to each other, and as a result of that, they've built a really impressive community of women that are obviously all into pinball and also just enjoying each other's camaraderie and company, which is really cool to see.
And I got to say, that was some of the most exciting gameplay that I've seen
really
in the last tournament.
Yeah.
I was glued to my phone.
Yeah.
And there was a number in attendance, even in the stream.
Sure.
And I think everybody felt the same way.
Yeah.
Those games were so close and so tight.
Right.
And every shot counted, and it was just amazing to watch. And I got to give it to Collins, because every time that I watch, he has great commentary, and I learn from him.
How much did he pay you to be on this podcast singing his praises? 'Cause I'll pay you double.
Ooh, double. Okay, great. There were a few zeros added there.
That's right.
But seriously, and we all don't know all of the games in and out like the back of our hand.
Of course not, no.
However, you all know enough to be
Right.
dangerous, and you can speak to exactly what's happening.
Right.
It's definitely a play-by-play commentary that, for myself, I'm still getting into it. I still don't know a lot of the rule sets for
Sure.
a number of the games. Shoot, I own Jaws, and I still don't know all the rule sets.
Jaws has a lot.
It does.
It has a lot going on.
But Collins does a great job, and when you're able to actually sit
Sure.
down and commentate.
Yeah, typically when I'm TDing or tournament directing, it's a lot more of a challenge. I like doing it. I like going in front of the camera and talking and looking at that stuff, but then I get pulled away because someone's ball got stuck or something, or I got to go make announcements, whatever the case may be. So.
Yeah. But either way, you guys are doing great.
Thank you.
I'm glued. Like I said, I'm glued to it every
Yeah.
time. But for some reason, that tournament last weekend was amazing.
Yeah.
It was awesome to watch.
There are some really good players. And to your point about the rules, too, it's interesting to see how people approach a game in a tournament, because that's very different. I'm sure you've even realized, like, how you would play Jaws if you're just trying to play Jaws and you want to get to different modes and stuff versus how you might play it if you're only solely focused on score, right? Like, if nothing else matters, you don't care about seeing wizard modes and stuff other than your score being high. You get 3 balls to do it. There are no extra balls in a tournament game. And it's just, what's the quickest way for me to rack some points up here? Your whole strategy changes. And so I think that's where, for a commentator watching a stream, it's sort of like, all right, they're probably going to want to go for X, Y, and Z, which might be very different than how you typically approach a game, because they're in a tournament. And it's what's the fastest way to points, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think in those larger tournaments that you all have, you both will comment on that. Oh, well, they're only so many points behind. All they need to do is get this one shot.
Right.
And then it's like you guys predict the future, and it happens. But for me, I am not there yet.
Sure.
I do not have that strategy. My strategy is make the shots that are flashing.
Right.
Stay alive.
It's not a bad strategy, though. As you found out in that tournament, you placed really well in it, because sometimes you can get in your own head about strategy in general, and you're like, all right, I'm going to go for X, Y, and Z, and then you miss a shot and you're dead, and that's that, and you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Whereas it's like, if you can relax a little bit, sometimes for me, that's the best way I play. It's just sort of like, just focus on playing some pinball, and the longer the ball's alive, you're going to get points in some ways.
Right.
There's a balance there, obviously. I think some of the best pinball machines have a risk and reward of, like, building up a jackpot and then collecting that jackpot, and you might be hitting all kinds of shots and not really doing much if you didn't collect and you didn't know what that collect was or where you were supposed to hit to make that happen. So there's a balance there. But
I have run into an occasion where I will turn around after I'm done, and people will ask me, hey, how did you do that? I don't know. No idea. Right. Yeah. Like certain video modes or whatever, right? In some games, I'm like, I don't know. I just kept making the shots that were flashing, and it came up. But I'm sure that if you ask somebody else around here, they can tell you exactly how to trigger it.
Right. Exactly. That's very cool. So yeah, we had our women flipping out group. That was a lot of fun. We had a busy weekend, and I think it was a couple factors. Obviously Father's Day, easy win for an arcade.
Happy belated Father's Day.
Thank you as well. It was busy for me as well, not to toot my own horn. It was also my birthday on Sunday. So I did.
Well, happy belated birthday.
I did double.
Cheers. We got a cheers to that.
Thank you so much. Birthday. Yeah, I'm 43 years old, believe it or not. And so, that So I was celebrating both, but yeah, we have Father's Day this weekend, and that's always busy for the arcade. Everybody wants to bring dad out to relive his childhood and all the things. So I'm sure that played a role. It was also really, really crappy weather. It's just been, and it still is, and it's just been really just dreary and raining on and off and just very humid, not a kind of weather that you would want to go out for. So I think that played a role as well.
Go out to the arcade.
Sure, yeah. Not outside.
Not outside.
Yeah, not outside. Right. So.
And I was here. I can attest to that.
Sure. Yeah.
So it was packed.
Yeah, I saw you on Saturday morning. I've had to also, and we'll get into this a little bit. I've had to be here at the arcade this past weekend. I didn't come in on Sunday. I kind of swore off it. I said they'll be fine. Whatever come what may, they will be fine. But I was here Friday night. I was here Saturday morning for a little bit. And even when I was here, typically our Saturday mornings are kind of a slow ramp up. And I saw you, and we were hanging out for a bit, but it wasn't slow whatsoever. No. I mean, right from the beginning, we're open or whatever, and by 11 a.m., it's just hopping in here. And we were just like, man, if this is what the whole day is going to be like. And sure enough, I think it continued to be like that.
Absolutely. I think I was here until about, so 10 until maybe 4-ish.
Okay.
And you're right, around 11, all the way through, at least 4. Again, I was not here after that, but it nonstop. People coming in. Every game had hands on it.
Right.
It was great.
Yeah,
that's
awesome
to see.
Yeah, it is cool to see. It's so funny to me when people, and you were commenting as you came in for us to record this podcast, this place has a very eerie sense when all the games are off and no one's in the building. It just kind of feels cavernous, and a lot of times people who might swing by and don't realize that we're not open, but I've got the door open for deliveries, they'll come in, they're like, can I look around? I'm like, you can. It's not as impressive, I'll tell you. And they'll ask me, they're like, is this successful? Like, do people like?
Ooh, ow!
I don't take offense to it because I get it. It's just sort of like, yeah, I mean, they think it's cool, but they're like, are you doing okay? They're like concerned for me. Like, is it going to be okay? Do people actually come out for this? And I'm like, more than I would have even expected, just in terms of age ranges and all of the things, families, adults, kids, everything in between. Like, that's been wild to me.
Yeah. Just real quick. One thing that I noted when I first started coming was the younger generation being glued to the arcade cabinets, right? Versus pinball. Now, I've seen a mixture of both, but it seems like that
kids love a screen.
And that just amazes me. And so I had brought one of my friends, and he has 2 daughters, and one of them was glued to Tapper over here.
Okay.
I have not played that game yet, but she was on there for a couple of hours, at least a couple of hours.
Yeah.
And that amazes me.
It's definitely got that one more game kind of feel of like the controls aren't too hard, but then you get in the weeds with it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, but it's also interesting because, I mean, I guess in a way you can argue that the arcade games are simpler, more simplified than modern games.
Sure.
Modern games are very involved.
Oh, yeah.
Always something going on.
As we were talking about rule sets, right? Like
Exactly.
some of these older games, the rule set is not complicated. It would fit on, a little index card, and you'd know everything you would need to know about the game. It's how you master it to get like a massive score on it, right?
Yeah. But it's just amazing how that technology can span multiple generations.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Which was
and
honestly, that was a surprise to me. When we opened the arcade, I really, like thinking about the target demographic, I figured it would be guys like us. I just really thought like, it's going to be a lot of, 40-somethings or whatever, everything from like early 30s up to maybe early 50s, mostly male dominated because that's just the way things are when it comes to gaming in general. And so that's what I kind of expected. Like, that's probably what I'll see the most of. And it turns out families more so than anything. And I think it was kind of the trick of families are always looking for places to have a birthday party, right? Like, little Johnny's got his 8th birthday party and they're looking around, and that kind of thing is really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to make it pretty affordable to rent a room here. and but also just kids, flashing lights, screens, gaming in general, like it all just kind of feeds into it. They don't know how to play the games. They have no idea what Congo Bongo or Defender is, or Galaxian, or any of these types of games that are in this space. But what's cool about it is that when the parents are involved, then the kids get into it, because the parents will show them how to play the games, and they're playing together, and if the parents just want to be like, just run off and do your thing, and they just want to drink beer and hang out with their buddies out back, it doesn't work as well.
Right.
It's not like your family entertainment center where you can just give them a card with a bunch of credits and say, go nuts, and they'll have a blast because they don't really know what's going on. Here, if they don't know what's going on an arcade game, they'll get bored like within seconds.
Right.
There's
and I see that
nothing
with
for
pinball
them.
sometimes too, where
Sure.
they'll plunge one ball, they hit the flippers a couple of times, and they're like, okay, I'm out. I'm going to go play this arcade game.
Oh, yeah. We're constantly resetting games.
Yeah. But I will say that, again, my friend and his daughter, I don't know how old she is. I'm going to say maybe 7.
Okay.
She seemed pretty intuitive, though,
Yeah.
going up to the arcade games and figuring out how to start them.
Sure.
We were even on X-Men, and we're both myself and my friend were like, how do we get 4 players on here?
Right.
You would think that we would be able to figure this out, but no, it's the little
Turns
girl
out,
that's showing us
little
how
girl
to
showed
play
you
the game.
how. Nice.
That's older than she is.
Yeah.
Much older than she is.
Yeah, the age range is wild. I mean, we had one of the girls that plays at the women's tournaments is 6 years old, and she started playing much earlier than that. They've got pinball machines at their house.
Okay.
Her dad helps her with the games and shows her how to play them and that kind of stuff, and that's been really cool to see. And she's a force of nature. I've had to kind of like be like, all right, Dad, you can't tell her what shots to make now. Like, she's getting old enough now to know, but it's pretty wild to just watch a 6-year-old just like crush someone. And it's just sort of like, is she making strategy moves? And I think she is. And it's like, man, if that's her at 6 years old, God help us when she's 12, 13, 14. These kids are made of something different, and they can read the ball path way quicker than any of us can, which is amazing.
They have
to
a
see.
higher frame rate.
Sure. Yeah, there you go.
Our eyes are
to put it in gaming terms.
Our eyes are getting older, right?
Right.
There's a lot of flashing lights, distractions for us, and for them, those younger eyes, they can just pick those things up. And speaking of being crushed, yes, she did beat me in that first tournament that I was in. So
nice.
That wasn't humiliating at all.
Not at all. But no, that's cool to see. Yeah, we were busy. We were busy on Friday too. Not too bad. Friday was interesting for me as an owner. So I mentioned this in a previous podcast. We're doing our summer Fridays, and so we're open early during the day, and that's been fine. We see more people coming out to that now, I think. But I had to be here to guest bartend on Friday night, and that was something I hadn't planned on doing. And then one of our bartenders on Thursday night or Friday morning, I'm not sure which, she sprained her ankle she was out. And I was just like, oh, I hate to hear that. And I had, careful what you wish for. I had asked my general manager, I said, hey, I've obviously been very excited about the new bar concept and played a huge role in what kind of bourbons we'd have there and what kind of drinks we would make and all that. I love doing that at my house and all that, but I've never bartended commercially, as in the service industry. I was always back of house cooking or something. So I said, I would kind of, like to bartend one night if you need me for something. I said, I feel like it would be a good experience. It would help me know what kind of things they're dealing with, what challenges they might have, how we might optimize that space better, all the things, right?
Absolutely.
It's just good experience. I thought that she would maybe throw me on a Wednesday night or a Thursday, like a not busy night. Friday is a night that we were having a band play, and it's one of our busier evenings, and so she messages me and she said, you asked, I can look around, although I'm not sure we have any other bartenders that are available tonight. Do you want to do it? And I said, absolutely I do. Like, come on, let's go. But
I mean, that's a part of the responsibility too,
it is,
right? Like,
it is, but I'm not going to lie. I was nervous. I was
I'm
very
sure.
nervous. I was just sort of like, oh, what if I get the drink wrong? Or, I don't know what I'm doing. They order something and I have no idea what it is. How do I deal with those things? All, like all of a sudden it's just like, I've never done this before. It's like, oh, I've made drinks before, but it's a very different scenario under the pressure of everything happening. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
Supposedly you came out with even another drink that somebody had taught you that evening, which is delicious.
Yeah, we had one guy, and it was interesting. The guy, I thought that he was deaf, and I because when he came up to order, he started tapping on his phone and held it up to me. And that's typically what someone will do if they're deaf. They'll just sort of like make it a little easier for you by typing it out or whatever. I think it was just because it was loud. As it turns out, I saw him talking to his wife or a partner, or whoever was with him, as they were playing Street Fighter. And I'm like, they talk English. They know words. Like, what is going on? And it occurred to me it was because it was loud, which I was experiencing a lot of. That was one of the two biggest challenges for me was hearing people when a band's playing. It's
Absolutely.
just the bar is very close to where our bands play, and this was this band wasn't super loud. I mean, they had an electronic drum set, which was great. That always helps. But it's pop punk covers. They're playing Alien Ant Farm and all these other kind of like music. And so there were points at it, which with the crowd and everything going and singing along with them or whatever, I was just like, you want what? Drink? And, all those things. You're trying to hear their name to put it on a tab. And I really struggle with that. Also, just years of me going to concerts probably hasn't helped my hearing in general to pick up on what they're saying to me.
Right.
So
yeah, don't put me back there because I would just nod my head and say, "Oh, okay," and then I'd make something random.
No idea what they asked. Yeah, exactly.
I'd be terrible.
Yeah, I'm not great with names, and I think that's probably a strategy that I would have to get better at and learn because people have open tabs. Do you have a tab open? Yeah. What's the name on it? Cool, and they give you your name, and that's cool. By the third or fourth time they come up there, the expectation would be that I remember their name, but I don't.
It took you a year for me, right? So
I'm like,
I get it.
I'm so sorry. What's your name again? I'm so sorry. What's your name again? By the end of the night, as much as I said that, people probably thought that guy, he's probably, headed right from here to a nursing home or something.
Name tags that will react to the black lights and stuff in here.
Yeah.
So then they'll glow.
Make all of them wear name tags.
Exactly. Not you.
Not me.
That's right.
This is to help me. Help me help you, right?
But then that builds the community as well. You can say, oh, hey, John.
Yeah.
Right?
Hello, my name is. Yeah. I like that.
And then their favorite drink.
Kill two birds with one stone. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And then
so
they could just point to their name tag, be like, "Oh, another one."
I'm full of ideas, Tim.
There you go. Yeah. But I had a blast. It was really good. It was really fun to support my staff that night. The other girl bartending with me, Christy, she's been amazing. She probably one of our longest running employees. We've got a couple that have been here almost since day one, and I can remember Christy and her husband Sean, who Christy's a teacher. She only works typically 1 day a week, although now that it's summer she can throw a couple other shifts in, so she was able to work that Friday night with me, and that was cool. But Christy and Sean, I believe they stopped by here when we were still in the process of building it, and they were like, when is this opening? This is amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so then a couple months after we had opened, they were like, if you ever need help, we're happy to do it. And we ended up, they each both pull one shift a week or something like that. Super nice people, and just kind of grown with the arcade. And it's fun to have employees like that are really invested in the space and are a success story as well because they're a part of the story.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like, not trying to draw attention back to me or anything, but that's kind of where I am as well. I want to be a part of the community.
Yeah.
And I want to help out as much as I can, however I can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enjoyable to me, to see
Right.
the arcade succeed, to see the staff succeed. That's perfect to me.
Yeah.
And every time that I'm here, everybody is super friendly, haven't had any issues, and it seems like you have a wonderful team on your hands.
I do.
And so that's really a great testament for you to be able to have a weekend like you were talking about, right?
Right.
If you need to go away, you know that the arcade is in great hands.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. But
It's been
also, you get to come in, and like you said, you might have to get your hands dirty
Oh,
every
yeah.
once in a while, but that's also good because
It
then
is
you
good.
can see what they go through. You
Right.
can maybe optimize or help to optimize. Obviously, the boots on ground are going to tell you where there are issues,
Yeah.
how to make things better.
Well, and I give a lot of credit to my managers as well. I mean, the entirety of the staff is great, but my general manager, my kitchen manager, so Paula and Marcus, they do a lion's share of work on the hours that we're open so that, because I'm here a lot during the day. We have deliveries, I'm working with Mike on Tuesdays, typically fixing the pinball machines. I'm here probably at least, if not Monday, Tuesday through Thursday, running a day shift, 9 to 4, somewhere thereabouts. And so, yeah, I've got some time on the weekends, but really that's not the role I want to be in necessarily, not all the time anyway. Whereas Paula and Marcus, more so than not, are here in the weeds with their staff, helping them out and getting things done. And that balance has worked really well for us. It's
That's
really helped everybody feel supported, which then in turn is going to make make the patrons feel like everything is just, friendly and great and all that, which is good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun to see that community build. I think I had a real realization a couple months ago. I was out back chatting with one of our regulars, a lifetime member, and her husband. Well, this is really funny. So when they got married, I can't remember if it was probably 2 years ago now. Would have made more sense. They asked me to DJ their wedding.
Oh, wow.
When I was, and I had.
Do you have a history of that?
I know.
Oh, okay.
I had just started doing some DJ stuff for the arcade.
Oh, gotcha.
But they really liked how I do DJing, and they were like, "Will you DJ our wedding?" And I'm like, "You are out of your mind. Are you serious? You want me to do that?" But I couldn't say no. I mean, you've got 2 lifetime members that are just they're here every weekend, and they asked me, and I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll do it." And so I DJ'd their wedding, and that's cool to know. Well, I was chatting with the wife out back. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, where's David?" And she was like, "Oh, he's hanging out over with Jonathan." He's like, they've really become best friends. And Jonathan Cable is another one of our regular members here in the space.
Mm-hmm.
And it just suddenly occurred to me, people are making lifelong friendships with other people here at
Right.
Reclaim. And this has become a space where that can happen. I was like, that's really freaking cool. That's so amazing and humbling for me to think that this space could actually provide that opportunity to people.
Sure. I mean, it may not seem like it because I'm here.
Yeah.
But I am an introvert.
Yeah.
But to come here,
I would wrap myself in that sometimes as well, surprisingly. I know I can come off as bombastic and all that, but if I don't know someone, I'm going to be pretty quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I thought that coming to the arcade was just going to be an escape even for me.
Sure.
I know that there's people here.
Right.
Totally get it.
Yeah.
There may be the occasion where I interact with someone. That's okay.
Right.
But I am here.
But you're
in
your comfortable spot in front of a pinball machine, not
Exactly.
talking to anybody. Yeah,
Exactly.
I get it. Right.
But again, through the tournaments, more than anything, I was able to make contacts there, and it just blossomed into friendships.
Right.
I mean, like you mentioned, we've just grown closer as well throughout the year, and Collins as well.
Sure.
I didn't really know Collins all that much, but I think he was the only person that I knew here one night. And I said, oh, you know what? I want to go let him know that I really appreciate his commentary. The Magna save, right?
Sure.
Don't forget about the Magna save. I
Yeah.
think that's his go-to phrase in his stream now. But
Is that on Black Knight?
yes, Black
Yeah,
Knight.
makes sense. Yeah.
And so we stood there and we talked for an hour. And that's usually not like me.
Right.
But that friendship just continued on and has just gotten better, stronger.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's amazing.
It's super
you
cool.
I've told you before, I will say it here now for everyone to hear. You have something great going on here.
Yeah. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And, speaking of you helping out and being a part of the space, one of the things I feel like fairly early on after we started talking, we were running into some networking things, and this was something that I had wanted to talk with you about on the podcast anyway. And because I'm always looking for things that people wouldn't expect when they want to start an arcade, when they want to run a retro arcade, or they just think this place is super cool, and they probably have some sense of the kind of things we deal with. internet and networking issues is probably not high up on that list,
Right.
And
You
that
plug it in, it should work, right?
it's just so, and also like these are all games. Why would you even need internet?
Right.
And most of them don't. But a lot of that is changing. For people who follow the pinball scene, they know about things like Stern Insider Connected and that kind of stuff. And so like that plays a big role in it. And also just regular equipment. Our point of sale requires internet access. And for me to take money from you when you walk in the building requires me to have an internet connection. We're way past the days of handing a card and swiping it across a carbon copy or something like that. Like I need internet for those things.
You're not full retro here.
Not fully, no. I never quite get away from it. But we were having some issues and you offered up help. And I guess I didn't realize when we first met that you had an IT background. I don't know what you do. And so I guess I'm kind of curious to hear a little bit more about what your background is, because you started looking at some of our network stuff and you're like, oh, you're using Unify and this and that and access points. And I was like, well, okay, he knows a little something about something.
I kind of shot myself in the foot, though, because I wasn't really expecting you to reach out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, uh-oh.
Like, oh, no.
Yeah,
he's
I better know some stuff.
He's going to know I'm a fraud.
So I am a jack of many trades,
Yeah.
master of none.
Sure.
Not even all trades, right? Just many trades.
Many, yeah.
So my history, hopefully brief, about 20 years of experience in IT, and that varies.
Yeah.
You can't start at the top.
No.
You have to make your way up.
Right.
And much like what you were saying, you want to know all aspects of every person's job.
Right.
That's kind of the path that I took.
Mm-hmm.
I started with customer service help desk and worked up to server, back-end, networking, firewalls, and then into more projects. So how do you implement something for your entire company or a portion of the company,
Right.
whether it be hardware, software, and figuring out scheduling and things like that to make sure that you're getting it done on time. And taking all of those skills and now into the position that I have is the lead for the help desk of the government contractor that I work for.
Okay. Very cool.
So it's kind of come full circle, starting with customer service.
That's so cool.
Getting all the
because,
background and then coming back to customer service again.
And what's cool about that, having never even asked about how you got started or anything like that, is like that's literally like how I got my start in IT, was like working at the help desk at the university that I was going to. And you're absolutely right. Like I was a student employee there, and then after I graduated, my wife was getting her master's, and so we're like, well, we're going to stick around. It's like, oh, I could get a job there. And so like that was where I got started, and then I was doing classroom technology and then more instructional technology, working with faculty and that kind of thing, which led me into some server admin stuff, oddly enough, because people had web projects that they needed to host and run, and that turned into me running my own web hosting company.
Nice.
Where I had to know about how
Right.
to run servers
Mhm.
because people were relying on me to. But yeah, that's super cool. So, and so then when, you were like, hey, I know you mentioned, if you ever need some help with networking, I'm like, I really could, because, we haven't had major issues. They were small things, first off, this is a really big building. So immediately, like when you get internet, it's not going to be, a single access point somewhere. That's just not going to work in a space this large. We have high ceilings. We have, I think, about 5,000 square feet of space. That's far beyond, Cox comes in and they put a single router there and you're good to go. It's just like some people's houses, that's not that possible anymore. I mean,
Right.
Even in my own house, we have Fios, but they put the freaking router in the unfinished side of our basement.
It's always in the worst spot.
Yeah, it's like literally the unfinished side of the basement, and it's just like, okay, our bedrooms are on the top floor of a 2-story house,
Yep.
and this is all the way in the basement. So I think even everybody else has those challenges. So I already played with that stuff early on, not knowing a whole lot about networking. I had gotten those Google Home
They're
net.
like pods.
They're
or
like
whatever.
little pucks or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, little things to make a mesh network. And we had those in various spots throughout the arcade. This was before the expansion, so it was a little smaller. And we also at the time weren't quite as complicated, I would say. We had less pinball machines. Insider Connected wasn't a thing with the Stearns.
How new is Insider Connect? 3 years?
You put me on the spot, but I want to say it was around 2021. Yeah, so it's
Okay.
probably
So yeah, it's
yeah,
pretty pretty new.
3 or 4 years
It's a baby.
old. Yeah. It's new enough to where I had to retrofit many of our games to add the QR code.
Right.
Obviously, all new ones now come with it. I want to say Godzilla might have been the first game that had it built in,
Oh, wow.
for the ones that I bought. And yeah, that was probably 2022 or 2021. I can't remember.
And I don't
2021.
know, I don't know enough about it, but even the older ones have newer technology now that you can at least get the scoring wirelessly or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah,
Again, I don't know enough about it.
people have made add-on boards. Even on the arcade side, there's these high score saves kits that we would add to some games, and they had Ethernet ports on them, and they're like, if you want, the scores can be uploaded to the internet. And I was like, oh man, that's super cool. The Scorbit, it was like an add-on board for some of the older pinball machines, and we had added that in. So, as time went on, things got more complicated. I tried, and then we did the expansion. I was like, oh man, we already were kind of struggling with those Google pucks. And then we did the expansion that added several more thousand square feet. And honestly, what was really struggling was on our food truck, which is now a trailer. They have a kitchen delivery system. It's a screen that will show them the orders. That needs to be connected to the internet, and there's no network connection out on an external building.
Is that hardwire, wireless, both?
It's wireless right now.
Gotcha.
We could probably do hardwire, although I don't know to be certain. But yeah,
Either way, network connected.
And a problem because the walls of this building are so thick. Like my workshop is a building like attached to the back of the building, and I don't have any internet when I shut the door to my workshop because it is a brick wall, fire rated, all the things, and it's just sort of like, so they were struggling sometimes
it's
getting
okay to admit that you're a prepper and you have a fallout shelter in the arcade.
My freaking panic room, right? So I went to upgrade them, and I'm like, all right, what's the best mesh network out there? I'll typically go to like Wirecutter or something.
Right.
And they recommended these like Asus Zen Wi-Fi access points. And I'm like, all right, I'll get those. They were kind of expensive, but I got a couple of those and put them around. And this was early on with the expansion, and it just wasn't working out because those are rated for home use, right? Like at the end of the day, that's for a residential system. And so I ended up getting involved with a group called Fredericksburg Technology. It's a wonderful, wonderful local business. George Barnick, who I had chatted with before, he came in and he was just like, you need a Unify system in here. We'll get you some routers in the ceiling. They'll broadcast a lot better than these things, which were literally like sitting on tables at certain places. He was like, it needs to be up and kind of blasting out, showering the people with network, right?
That's exactly what it is.
So, yeah, right. And so
they are radio waves.
Yeah, so they got us set up with all of that stuff, and that made a huge difference for network connectivity across the board. However, we were still having issues, and that was where you came in and helped out a lot because there were, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think one of the challenges with a mesh network is that sometimes depending on the location of where an object is, it might be trying to connect to multiple different things and be like, oh, that's closer, but there's a wall between us, and it doesn't know that, and it's just trying to do that, and it's got a weaker signal that's further away, but maybe is a more direct signal to it.
Exactly. And your network thinks that it knows better than you.
Right.
And so a lot of times it will say, okay, well, no matter what, even though there's an access point right next to this machine,
right,
you're actually getting a better signal from this other access point that's in the middle of the room, maybe 50 feet away.
Right.
And at times your network will also say, well, hold on, I'm going to pull you back because all of a sudden it's better here
Yeah.
with the one that's next to you. And then it can tend to bounce back and forth.
And you're in the middle of blowing up JAWS, and you go to scan your QR code, and that's
no
that's the exact moment it is decided, maybe I don't want to be on this access point, and you go to scan, and you get the wow, like the wow, wow, whatever
you finally
sound.
are getting close to that holiday-related achievement,
right?
And you just can't get it because Reclaim Arcade does not have internet for some reason. But
it's a struggle.
Networks are hard.
They are.
And a lot of times, a lot of people think that more is better.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's really not the case.
Yeah.
When you start adding more, you can actually introduce more interference.
Interesting.
And that's what I was immediately kind of thinking about when you started talking about the infrastructure that you have.
Right.
I was immediately thinking, well, maybe they are a little too close to each other,
right?
And bouncing around. So one of the things that we did was to go into your dashboard, your network dashboard, and to see the activity for that one machine. I think it was Foo Fighters over here.
And I will say, like, this does get geeky, but man, Unify is an amazing system. If you run a commercial place and you're looking at networking equipment, they've got their stuff together there. Everything from security cameras to server rack type stuff. And I've been really impressed with it. So, like, that was a very nice surprise that we ran into, and it was like, oh man, I can see every device on our network, how strong the signal is, what kind of packets they're sending out, all that. And it's in a really nicely laid out thing that I can access from my phone, from the laptop, even if I'm not in the building. So that's been really cool to see.
So we didn't have to cut to a commercial for that?
We didn't. No.
Okay, good.
This unfortunately, this podcast is still very much unsponsored.
Getting there.
If you all would like to change that, opencoindoor@gmail.com. Hit us up. We would love to pitch your stuff. But no, it's completely unsponsored.
To your point, there are a number of products out there. So what is the best for you?
Yeah.
A lot of those products are geared toward residential.
Sure. Yeah.
And when you start getting into,
and I'm always going to be the guy that wants to go over to Best Buy and just grab something to fix the problem, right?
That's what everybody thinks.
And that's not going to be like for a commercial building. It's the access to that stuff is like, oh, contact us for a solution. You're just like, oh Christ, like this is going to be 5 times as expensive,
right?
And I don't know what I'm doing, right?
I mean, you are paying. Actually, Unify is
Unify's been great, yeah.
And
I mean,
because there's no subscription services, knock on wood, yet,
and
right?
and their prices are online.
Yep.
You can buy online. Like if I want to buy more cameras or more equipment, I can just buy it, and it's right there. It's the shadier stuff, I think, is when it's just like contact us for a quote, and then they're talking to you, and they're basically trying to figure out how much money you make, right? They want to know like what are we dealing with, and how much can we eke out before you'll feel pain,
and are you worth it?
Are you worth it to them?
Because they're, even in the world that I'm in, when we build out an office,
sure,
there are a number of companies that are like, well, how big are we talking?
Right.
How many employees or how many people are going to be there? How many clients are going to be connected to this network? And sometimes they're like, it's not worth our time.
I'm sure we're small. I'm sure the arcade is small potatoes for a lot of those kind of organizations, to where it's like, yeah, we're not residential, but we really don't fall into that like large corporate structure by any means.
Yeah.
And so that's the weird middle ground.
So I think one thing that I had asked you, circling back a little bit, one thing that I had asked you, and I don't know if I actually got an answer, but this is more for people that are interested in trying to educate themselves moving forward. But did you happen to have a floor plan to provide to these people that did the work for you, so then that way they could give you a sense of where things would reside, and they can even give you a heat map.
Right.
And that heat map will show you the signal. Obviously, it's not implemented, right? It's a guess.
Yeah.
But at least it's showing you where they might be and what they might reach. Did they do anything like that for you?
They did a little of that. Because I mentioned we had just expanded, and so I had very recent construction documents of that expansion, which showed the whole arcade. And so, that was really us figuring out. And I think the biggest thing for them when looking at the arcade was just the header that drops down that kind of separates the area that used to just be the arcade to now the new area that's got the bar and the party room and that kind of thing. And so they kind of defined two different access points that would cover all of that. And then we did some other stuff there too, like all of our point of sales now are hardwired. And so they were able to leverage, I don't even know what the name of it. They're like mini switches that Unify makes that are powered over Ethernet. And so they could run an Ethernet cable and then directly connect in those point of sale systems. And that was huge too. It's like now those aren't on Wi-Fi at all. They're on their own VLAN. And so it's now more secure and that kind of thing. And so we were able to leverage some of that. And by watching them do it, I was able to then say, okay, well, I also want the computer that I stream to Twitch to be hardwired.
I noticed that.
Let's run some cabling and do that. So even after they've been gone now, I've been like, because, again, I'm very much like you, like jack of many trades, master of none kind of thing or whatever. I know how to like punch out an Ethernet cable and run it through a ceiling. And so I'm like, I'll if I need to do that, I'll do it. And I did. So
I mean, you paid them, might as well learn from them too.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's finding that equipment that works to hardwire certain things, but there are some things that are always going to be on wireless. And another thing I remember that you pointed out, and I can't say that I still completely understand it. Here's my basic understanding.
I probably won't understand it.
Of like 2.4 versus 5 gigahertz. Right. Okay. So like my basic understanding is that before all we had was 2.4. And life was good
until your phone rang or you ran the microwave.
Yeah, great.
You would get some interference there.
Yeah, so these are frequencies, right?
Yeah.
And so like 2.4 existed, and then this new hot stuff comes along called 5 gigahertz. And for a while there, we're confused because now when you go to connect to a network, it's like, do you want the 2.4 or the 5 version? And I'm like, I just got internet at my house. I don't understand. Why do I have 2 access points? I only have 1 router, and I don't understand any of that anymore. But my basic understanding is that that 5 gigahertz is faster and typically less crowded, but doesn't go as far, doesn't go through walls as well, and those kind of things. Whereas 2.4 can go longer distances, but it's not quite as fast, and there's a lot more devices on it. Is that somewhat correct?
That's the basics, right? You've got that down. And at work, we would typically explain for a job interview, we would ask the candidate explain Wi-Fi to your grandmother.
Okay.
So that was perfect.
Nice.
You passed.
I passed that.
I might hire you.
Yeah. Okay.
If something happens, then I might have something for you.
All right. Nice.
But you are largely correct. So we're talking about these radio waves, and for 2.4, it can go farther, but it is more prone to interference.
Right.
Whether that be of another 2.4 gigahertz network, it could be your neighbor over here, it could be across the street, whatever, because those signals do go pretty far.
Yeah.
And then there are channels in these networks as well. And there aren't as many in 2.4 as there is compared to 5 or even 6.
Right. So it's a more robust network as it goes into the higher numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now you're lowering the chance of conflict or interference when you go into those newer technologies. But you are absolutely correct in that if you go to 5 or even 6, it's almost, I'm exaggerating here, but it's almost like you kind of need to be exactly next to the access point in order to get a good signal. But it is much faster. The transfer rate is much faster as well.
And some devices don't support both, right? Like, older devices.
Looking at you, Stern.
Yeah.
Are we not, am I allowed to do that?
I think so, yeah. I think
you're
so.
safe for now? I'm safe for now?
Again, no sponsors. There's no money involved in this thing, so why not?
But that is weird.
But,
it is odd that there are modern technologies that are locked into 2.4.
Right.
I wouldn't be able to answer that question for you.
Yeah.
It is mind-boggling to me.
Well,
and come up with the times here.
I, for better or worse, mostly worse here, because I'm a geek, I try to do a lot of the Internet of Things type stuff, like have outlets that would turn on command. My goal with the arcade was to be able to say, like, hey, Google, turn on the arcade, and everything would just start popping open. and it works.
I think I heard the games just come
Yeah,
on.
they might. If I didn't, if I talk too loud, it actually would happen. But but in reality, what happens is you get these crappy Chinese-made outlets that can't support a whole bank of games. There's too much power running through them. They only work on 2.4 gigahertz. They end up eventually just not working for whatever reason, and then a bank of games doesn't turn on, and my staff are having to pull games out of the way and plug directly into the outlets and stuff. So I have yet to find a perfect scenario beyond just having them turn breakers on and off or something, which also isn't ideal. But I would love that kind of remote scenario, but it becomes very challenging when you have 75 plus arcade and pinball machines that all need to be kind of automated in some kind of powered way.
Weird request. Can I actually try that before we leave?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, we can do that. And I have it set up as a routine so that it doesn't turn everything on at once. Yeah. So it's timed. And over the course of, I would say, 20 to 25 minutes, banks of games will turn on so that it gives them time to warm up before the next bank. Not that, I mean, there are a lot of things on different breakers anyway where it's probably not the biggest issue, but I also think it's probably important to just not have the whole building like when, on the Family Vacation, right?
Yeah, sparks are flying.
Yeah, exactly. He's plugging it in and everything. You see the meter flying
right
in the back of the house.
I would like to see that too.
Right, yeah.
I'm sure your meter's just sparking out there.
Lord knows. Some days, probably. So, yeah, that was one of the things I think that we found out with Insider Connected in particular, that was the 2.4 gigahertz range was a lot stronger. And on top of that, I think we decided, because of where the pinball machines were, that we could say, hey, don't worry about the mesh network. You are always going to connect to that access point, and that access point is going to have a private 2.4 gigahertz only network.
Exactly.
And that seems to be working really well.
Yeah. I was really surprised that worked.
Yeah.
Another thing to note.
I don't know if it's been 100%, but it's been enough to where I haven't heard from anybody that has had issues logging in.
Don't look at the logs.
Yeah, right. Well, and the other
Just be
side,
ignorant to that.
the few people that may occasionally not be able to log in too, like Stern, sometimes their servers are down.
Yeah, for sure.
So
it happens to me at home. And,
right.
I mean, my router is right on the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
So it happens.
But that definitely helped out with that, because Stern is they're those little USB Wi-Fi adapters, the kind of thing that you would plug into a laptop that didn't have internet, or a desktop PC that doesn't have a Wi-Fi card or something that gives it Wi-Fi. But man, those things, I mean, it's just a tiny little USB port type device, and they're not really strong. And to your point, not really modern technology there. There's no antenna on it whatsoever, and this is in the back box of a game that's now going to completely block out that signal. So it's probably not the best solution. I know you can hardwire Stern games, but who wants to do that? I mean, I've got so many pinball machines. That would be a big job. And where are you running the cable out of? Or is it running out the back box? Am I running it down through the speaker grills in the back or something?
Right.
It just gets very complicated and messy, I think, trying to hardwire those games. Whereas,
for sure.
It seems the Wi-Fi is working well with that.
But yeah, I don't understand the 2.4 only.
Yeah.
And even if you buy a dongle, I think I've seen people on Reddit where they will buy an aftermarket dongle.
I did that. I tried that too.
It might have 5 on it, but the software that they use on their board does not. It's not compatible with it. So maybe in 10 years with a software update, especially on X-Men. Right?
Yeah. Honestly, I think the best thing that they could do is put a card or build it into the board itself, something that has a strong antenna on it, because you are putting Wi-Fi on something that is now surrounded by wood and other electronics.
Right.
It's not an open signal that's going to be able to completely hit something, and I think that's where the challenge is. So if I've seen some people that will get USB adapters that have a way to screw on an antenna, and that makes a big difference for them as well. Even if it's still behind the back box, now you're able to get a signal a lot stronger out of that game.
Right.
So,
but I think in your case, to speak a little bit more into detail as to what was happening and to the power of Unify as well, when you would go into the dashboard, it took a hot second to figure out which machine was which. So we had to turn off some machines to figure out which one Foo was.
Sure.
Which, another quick aside, something else that you had done was you actually went in and you named every single
yeah.
device, right? So now you know who's doing what talking,
Yeah,
right?
because
And
you
who's
see in the
communicating.
logs, it's like EW7693. It's probably some serial number or model number, just something randomly assigned to it. And I was like, oh no, I want to know what that game is when I'm looking at the logs, so you can go in and rename that stuff. It's just
and
useful.
so we could see in those logs, and
Yeah.
this is why it's so important. You just have to have that, just a little bit of curiosity.
Yeah.
To go in and take a look and see what's happening. And we could see it bouncing between two different access points.
Right.
So as you had mentioned, that's when we kind of locked it down.
Yeah.
And it seemed like that was better. And great. Run with that solution for a little while to see if it works. So you want to do one change at a time, right?
I definitely, yeah. I'm really bad about that, and you're really smart about that. You were like, make the change and do nothing else.
Be
and
patient.
I'm like, but I could try some other things too. And you're like, but then you're not going to know what you fixed and what you didn't. So, no,
and that's tough, especially
smart.
when you're running a business.
Yeah.
That's tough. And I know that
there's always a sense of pressure about like, I need to get this resolved now, and who knows if that's working or not. So let's throw 3 or 4 things at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And that's not, when it comes to IT stuff, that's not the best case of
right.
like, let's try a bunch of different stuff. It's like, well, now you don't know what actually fixed it and what might have
Exactly.
made things worse in the meantime. Right.
So I'm glad that that's been working.
Yeah.
And now that we've talked about it, downhill from here. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
that's right. So last time you're ever going to be invited
Yep.
as a guest.
Don't call me.
It's all you were good for was your IT skills, turns out. No, but it's been super useful. Like the games, the Twitch streaming, obviously, that plays a big role. And we don't have our backbone is decent enough. Unfortunately, in this building, we have cable internet, and the upload speeds aren't great.
And a lot of people don't know that that's key.
Oh, yeah.
For
streaming, it's huge.
A lot of people, a lot of times, any website or somebody that's trying to help you with their stream will say, well, go to a website and tell me what your internet speed is.
Right.
Oh, well, I have gigabit.
Right, yeah,
Well, okay, you might have gigabit download.
Right.
But what you're doing when you're streaming is you're pushing back out to the internet. You're pushing out to that audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the number that is key to the success of the stream.
Right. Even something as simple as uploading a video to Facebook or something. That's upload speed versus download. And download's always huge. And even Cox, who runs our internet, they've offered us gigabit. And I'm like, oh, really? What's the upload? And they're like, 30.
Yeah, right.
Like I have 300 down and 30 up, and that's the best that we can do. But they're like, well, you could have gigabit. And I'm like, but what's the upload? They're like 30. I'm like, I think it's
That's
just
not what I need.
It must just
Reverse
be.
it.
It must just be a limitation of the cable, because I can't understand why they would offer it otherwise. Like I think the cable versus fiber, like they just haven't actually run fiber to the building, so they're like, we can, give you a fast internet speed for download, but it's like really when it comes to streaming out to Twitch, we're taking a high quality feed and sending it up to the internet that you're then consuming on Twitch. The faster we can get that, the less latency there's going to be, all the things there, the higher quality it's going to be. So like that's become really important as well. And that was a challenge, not just with networking, but also just with freaking computers, man. Like we found, I think that we were recording stuff. It was going to a Dropbox folder that was then uploading it. And that upload was taking priority over the other stuff.
Who's this we? I mean, Collins isn't here. We can just blame him.
We can just blame him. That's true. Yeah, it's all his fault. But yeah, so a lot of challenges when it comes to networking, but we worked through them, and I think that's kind of cool stuff for people to know. I don't expect, I think a lot of business owners, they probably just farm that stuff off to some IT team or whatever. You got a guy that you call that fixes things anytime they're broken or whatever, but ultimately, I think if you want a successful space and you're going to be involved, you have to have some kind of working knowledge. And that's always what I've taken from this space is that when it comes to plumbing, I have to call a plumber. I'm not a plumber, and I have to call somebody to fix something. But when a toilet breaks now, like typically just about anything on a toilet I can do because I've had to do it here.
Good to know.
I've had to run, new water lines as a part of building out that new bar. And so like I watched the plumber do that, and I was like, okay, this and that, and I'm constantly learning and trying new things because I don't want to have to rely on someone in the future. I think it's obviously I want to support small businesses and that kind of thing, but sometimes it's heat of the moment, and it's like, I don't have time to call someone. We need to get this up and running and just do the immediate fix.
Or, I mean, throwing salt on the wound, any of the gas-related stuff. I mean, there's some things that you just cannot touch.
You can't do your own. Yeah,
but now you've learned.
Yeah.
And so if something like that happens in the future, you know how to mitigate it.
Yeah. Or even to just be able to talk proficiently to the expert.
You don't want to be taken advantage of.
No, right. Like, so if I call someone, I want to know what the hell I'm talking about, so I'm not just like, game don't connect, I don't know, like, and they're just sort of like, what are you even talking about?
Right.
Like,
that'll be $1,000.
Yeah, right. They're like, I'm going to take this guy for a ride. So I think that proficiency has helped.
But with the streams, I mean, I feel like there for a long time, probably before you met me, everything was fine.
Right.
And then when you did meet me, for some reason, they went downhill. I don't know. Maybe I planted something.
It's awfully suspect. There are questions. That's all. I'm going to leave it at that. But there are questions about your involvement.
But there's a lot on the line, too, because not only are you trying to stream out to your community, but your community that is here, that is playing, they like to be recorded.
Some of them do.
Maybe not all of them.
Maybe not all of them.
I've seen a lot more creep up where I want to watch this. And so
I think even if people are like, oh my gosh, the rig's going to be on me, I hate this. It's like, you're going to go back and you're going to watch yourself play.
Right.
And you're going to watch who you were playing against and what you could have done better. And it's going to make you a better player. So I actually think it is a huge positive, even if they're like, oh no, I don't want to be in front of the camera. But yeah, I actually think it can be a really good thing. I've had some people who want to build rigs for their house. And unfortunately, it can get pricey. Like, it can get pretty expensive, but they're like, I just want to watch myself play, like go back and watch how I played a game and learn from myself. And I'm like, that's a totally valid reason to have one for sure, even if you don't care about being the next like Twitch famous streamer or anything.
Did you want to briefly, I don't know how you got started, but I assume that you didn't have a full rig going on. Like, how did you go about figuring out what exactly you needed and what you could get away with?
Right.
Obviously, now you have an amazing setup.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did not start that way.
No, not at all. I mean, when I wanted to start streaming, I came to this late in the game, and there were some early pioneers there. Jack Danger was huge at building the Twitch community for pinball streaming, and he had a website on how to stream pinball. And honestly, back then, it was like a couple microphone stands with webcams hooked to them, and you plug all these USB webcams to your laptop.
Yeah.
You open up OBS, and you get going, right? I knew that would never work here, maybe for myself personally, but not beyond that. I had done that at my house. I played around with that. Quality's not great on webcams. They're not, the frames per second isn't high enough. Now some of the webcams are better, about 60 frames per second. Back then, it was just like, no, these are meant for like a freaking Zoom call, not for watching a metal ball fly across the playfield and feel like you're seeing it in real time. So, but there's other pioneers like Carl D'Angelo. He's IE Pinball on Twitch, and he not only uses really nice equipment, but he had also built out one of these metal rigs on wheels. A lot of people will call it an 80/20 rig, and that's just because the website you buy this extruded aluminum from is 8020.net. I think it's .net. I might have just sent you to a porn site. I don't know, but 80/20, and so basically you could buy the aluminum frame, you could connect it all together, and then you would have something on wheels that you could roll over top of a game and be able to easily clamp cameras to. So I was looking into some of that, and I'm like, that's what I want to build. I want to build something like that I could then do, but the challenge here is like I needed it to all be somewhat mobile. And so there's a website, Tilt Forums. I know you've probably been on there because of the rule sheets are great. Like they do a good job of showing the rules for games and that kind of stuff. And so Tilt Forums has a whole page with tons of information from people. It's like a forum thread, a discourse forum where people are talking about live streaming rigs and mobile rigs. And so, like, I was learning a lot through there. Of course, it's a lot of information to glean through, because technology changes and the way people approach things is going to be different. But I built the rig first, and I bought some of the cameras, but it wasn't until I was like, how am I going to, like, actually stream it out? And for a while there, I was just, like, having a laptop sitting on a game beside it. But I'm like, that'll never work for tournaments. I had played with a YOLO box, which I don't know if you've ever heard of, but it's an all-in-one device that allows you to basically capture multiple HDMI inputs and stream those out. And I'm thinking, well, that's what I want to do. Like, I can get HDMI from these cameras and even the USB webcam and all that kind of stuff and stream it out. At the time, and now they've come out with newer devices that support you being able to edit the scenes. At the time, they had pre-built scenes. It was like, do you want picture-in-picture? Do you want side-by-side? And I'm like, oh, no. I need a very specific, I need it rotated 90 degrees in the center. I need a person up here. I need an image here. And they're just sort of like, whoa. And I would tell them,
Who does that? Yeah,
like, I'm trying to, like, stream pinball. And they were like, yeah, I don't know. You'll have to get creative. And I tried to get creative with what I could do with it, but it was very limiting. And it wasn't until Magewell came out with the Director Mini, and that's what we use today. Not as many inputs as YOLO Box, so I've considered maybe getting a YOLO Box Ultra or Extreme. Those are newer ones that offer the ability to build out your own scenes, but they have many, many HDMI inputs, some 4, some 8 HDMI inputs. Not that I need that many cameras, but it wouldn't hurt to have the option and that kind of stuff. So,
because you have different games and the camera view might be a little bit different.
Yeah, sometimes, like some people want to have put the upper playfield on its own camera and build out a layout with that or something.
Maybe a camera on Kong or something.
Yeah, and just because of the Director Mini, we've had to put a USB webcam for the face camera. But I found a really good one, the Razer Ultra from Kyo, whatever it may be, has worked really well. So within the limitations of what I have, it seems to be working well. But yeah, it's been a journey. I'm kind of an AV nerd with that stuff. I like playing with cameras, with microphones, all that kind of stuff, and just seeing what works and what doesn't. So it's fun for me, but it is quite a rabbit hole and an expensive one at that. Yeah.
Well, that's why I wanted to ask, because there might be a lot of people that are even interested at home.
Sure.
And just want to do something to get started.
Yeah.
You don't have to necessarily go out and spend thousands of dollars right away on a stream.
No.
Or on a setup.
I was helping Matt Larson build out his rig, and he had a laptop that had belonged to him or his son. I'm not sure. It was like a gaming style laptop. And once he showed me what ports were on it, I was like, that's all you need for the streaming part. Like, and because he's not rolling something around like being completely mobile. It was like, you can have the laptop sitting beside the game, plug all the cameras into it, and you're good. And that allowed us to keep the cost, I think, closer to maybe like $1,000 or something thereabouts. He did end up getting a Director Mini and kind of going that route because he
likes toys.
He likes toys, and he wanted it. I think he wanted it to be more mobile. I think having to plug it all into a laptop was
more professional too. He's that kind of guy.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you can start off smaller, even as small as just using webcams. Jack Danger's website still holds up. It's devflip.com/I think how to stream pinball, all is one word. I'm guessing on that, but if you search on Google Deadflip how to stream pinball, you'll find his page, and it still has a lot of really good information. The other one that I follow, I literally cannot remember the URL for it, but it's Matt Matheson. He's like DRI 357 or there's some 3 number combo, which makes it impossible to remember. But he's got a website. I'll put it in the show notes. How about that? I'll put it in the show notes because he put out a website recently with all of the gear he uses, and he's very much an AV head. And he's got multiple types of rigs, everything from here's an on-the-go cheap one to here's a high-end,
nice.
Here's a tournament setup, and all the various recipes of how you can do that with links on where to buy all the stuff.
Obviously, I know where you're going with this because you and Collins have been traveling around doing some other tournaments in other places and running into issues outside of the arcade as well.
Almost always internet related.
Right.
Yeah. But I can do everything else, but if you can't give me a good upload speed, what are we doing here?
Yep.
But yeah.
But I mean, it's cool that there's other people out there that have that same interest too,
right?
Because you can learn from their mistakes.
Yeah. One thing I love about the pinball community in particular, and even the arcade community, is how open everybody is about things. It's just like there's that community of sharing, and having worked in a professional environment in academics and higher education, there was a similar sense of that. People building on the open web, people building websites and things like that. And that's been really like a very comfortable space for me, that other people are willing to say, like, this is what works and what doesn't, and here's what I'm trying, instead of just sort of like, well, that's proprietary, you know, like it's just a very different mindset. And so like I love that aspect of the community, the willingness to share. I wish the companies that provide the games to us were also willing to share with each other, and then we wouldn't have 3 different ways to log into a machine right. Or, you know, games that have no ability to log in because nobody wants to play ball with each other. That's unfortunate. But the community itself is definitely very open to, here's what I've got, here's what's working, here's what's not. Those tilt forums are a great place to interact with people. There's also several different Discord channels where pinball folks are talking about what's working, what's not. There's one specifically for the IFPA, and there's a whole section on TD discussions where if I have a questionable call, I can just quickly open up Discord on my phone and go, here's what I'm dealing with, what's the correct call here? And people from all over the world can be like, yeah, no, this is the right way to do that. This is what follows the rules.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I don't take advantage of it as much as I should in the moment, but it's there and it's useful, and that's the kind of community that this is, and I think that's super cool.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, you've tapped on all of my knowledge, so I am of no use to you anymore.
Well, good. I'm glad, you know, like Voldemort, I've sucked out all of your life being,
you have.
And now we can move on.
I've taught you well. How about that?
Good.
Yeah, let me change
Very
it.
nice.
I've taught you well.
Yeah. I have no doubt you'll be on here again sometime soon. Collins will probably be back next week, and who knows what we'll be talking about. But meanwhile, I appreciate all of you all tuning in. We've had a lot of people comment on things. I did get one email in the opencoindoor@gmail.com inbox this past week, and I did want to mention it. Somebody had, said that they're really enjoying the podcast, really enjoying everything about it, and they had a really great question. They also mentioned that they have some experience running tournaments on like fighter games.
Oh, okay.
And so like I'll probably be talking to this person.
Nice.
Chris was his name, and he mentioned that. However, he also said he had a question for the podcast. Do you have any plans to bring a wider mocktail menu for people who don't drink? Which I thought was a fantastic question.
That is.
I told him absolutely. It's something that I'm researching a lot more. I'm a drinker, so I kind of lean towards those. However, I absolutely, we have lots of NA-style beers in the fridge right now. There's actually a non-alcoholic sour from Aslan Brewing right now. And so, like, I totally get there are people that don't drink, that don't imbibe, or don't want to drink as much, but don't want to feel left out. And that's a really important thing, too. And so I want to bring that to the bar side. I had to get the bar side up and running, and I wasn't quite ready on that. Mocktails get tricky because it's not as easy. If you have some basic mixers and bitters and liquors and liqueurs, you can make just about anything. When it comes to mocktails, for them to feel special, you almost have to like brew special teas or use like kombucha or something special in there or something like that. Mm-hmm. If I serve you a drink that's just pineapple juice and grenadine, you feel like, what did I just pay for, right? Like, what? I'm just drinking pineapple juice. It's like, well, no, it's a non-alcoholic rum punch. And you're just like, go to hell. Right? What are you doing right now? So I want to do it better than that. I want to have really interesting mocktails that kind of mirror some of the fun cocktails that we've been able to create. So it's definitely on my radar and something that we'll have in the future. And I appreciate, Chris, you reaching out. If any of you others have comments, questions, complaints about my special guest, please reach out.
Shots fired.
Please reach out to opencoindoor@gmail.com. Meanwhile, that's going to be it for us for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Mark, for joining me this week. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate the conversation. And I'm really enjoying doing this. So thank you all for watching, and we will see you next week.